somewhere to put my phone. Great. Hello, everyone. My name is Justin Berlin. I currently am working as a research analyst at Strategic Policy Economics. I'll tell you a little more about that in a minute. I graduated in 2016, just over 2 years ago now, with a double major in philosophy and cognitive science, and I did most of a computer science major before I decided that wasn't for me, and then I ended up with a computer science minor. So I'm going to have a bit of a thesis for this 5-minute lightning round, and basically my idea, what I want to say with this 5 minutes is how I think COG sci prepares you for life after COG. So I'll talk about my own job, where I use a lot of skills that I learned in my degree here in cognitive science, but I don't really use much of the content. If you've ever heard that joke about learning in high school, you know, oh, I need to know how to do taxes, and all I learned is mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. In a sense, it's a bit like that. Cognitive science is stuff that I learned in COG sci really deeply frames like my understanding of the world and how to live in society and all that stuff. But in my day-to-day job, I don't use it very much. Alright, so a bit of a timeline of how I ended up where I am. I graduated, I floundered, I was tutoring for a bit. I actually got fired from that. I don't know why, I still don't know why. My roommate worked for the same place, she doesn't know why either. My health took a bit of a nosedive. I discovered I have depression. If anyone else wants to talk about that afterwards, feel free. And then a friend of mine that I had from actually working on the philosophy course union, he decided that he was going to move to New Zealand indefinitely to start working there. And he just so happened to be working at this company owned by his stepdad, the small consulting firm called Strategic Policy Economics, or Strapelec. They're a very tiny consulting firm, which basically means nothing. Specifically what they work on, though, this actually does mean something, is they're a business strategy consulting firm. So basically, business executives come to us with trying to figure out what to do based off of something, and we tell them the consequences of what sorts of things they want to do. Specifically, we work on issues in the electricity sector, the electrical grid, and the impacts of climate action on what the electricity grid is going to look like now, 5 years, 10 years, how policy impacts that, all sorts of fun stuff. So we do all sorts of things there, all sorts of computer modeling stuff. We do a lot of report writing, we do a lot of policy analysis. I've done a lot of tracking media coverage of these sorts of issues, so I prepare these weekly news briefs of what's in the news about climate change, about the electricity grid, nuclear power, renewable energy, all that fun stuff. But there are two particular things I want to talk about at my job that is sort of brings into focus what it is that cognitive science has contributed to my work there. So one of them is some fun times I've had with LinkedIn. You all know LinkedIn, it's a social media site for people who want to show off where they work rather than their favorite cat memes. I like cat memes. So many of these actually had a similar experience. So we've got this project coming up that involves documenting the research impact of a closing government research facility. And one of the things I want to know is where all the graduate students who work there, so there have been a number of graduate students who've worked there over the years, they want to know what those students did after they finished working. Now here's the problem, there's 615 students, and LinkedIn doesn't let you do anything other than searching manually. So what we've got budgeted right now is 7.5 weeks of full-time work, going to people's LinkedIn profiles, looking for that information, copying it down, making sure it's right, blah, 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 all that fun stuff. And I'm sure you can relate to the complicated topic of following alumni. But I So I started looking into maybe ways to go about automating this. Now it turns out there are various sorts of applications that are used for testing web applications. Basically what you can do is you can automate like literally the task of going to a website and clicking on stuff and entering things into the keyboard. This is completely ridiculous for the kind of thing I need to do. It would be really easy for LinkedIn to actually let you just access their database by program directly. But it turns out that even though this sounds completely ridiculous, it's actually pretty easy just to automate. Like literally just typing in search terms and clicking on stuff and copying stuff. It sounds complicated, but it's actually pretty simple. That's one thing. Another thing, so in my in the news analysis that I'm doing, I'll be quick. In the news analysis I'm doing, it turns out that when you've got, I don't know, just in the States, there's over 200 journalists who work on sort of renewable energy, climate stuff, maybe more. Turns out there's a lot of really complicated disagreements when these people talk to each other. And one of the things that I'm sure you figured out if you've done any cognitive science so far is that you learn to navigate complicated disagreements. So even though it's not about the brain or the mind or what have you, it turns out there's a lot of other complicated stuff out there. So that's been really great. So basically what I want to say is that COG is really great at preparing you to actually go and do things. The problem is figuring out what you want to do, and for employers to figure out what you can do. I literally only have this job because my friend working at this company decided to move to New Zealand indefinitely and recommended me. If that didn't happen, I don't know if I'd have a job right now. I've been there for about 10 months. That's hard, but y'all can do some really cool stuff. That's me. Thanks.